That's what I'm gonna do. Hello, 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 everybody. I'm about to switch it up a little bit. Welcome to our next guest with Miss Kayla. Um, Usually you'll speak with Silas the third, but I'm taking over his show for today. So scratch off the DTI takeover show. We're gonna do our next guest today. You have me. And here I am. We are here to highlight and showcase people who have amazing things going on, who are making an impact on the world, who are trying to just do something to make a difference. And this young lady with me is no different than that. I have Miss Elise Perry of E Inspires. Hello, Elise. How are you?
Hello, I'm great and yourself.
Pretty good, pretty good. So tell us a little bit about Elise.
Hello, everyone. I am Elise. I am a life coach, and I just empower millennial women to live life boldly despite their chronic illness diagnosis through self acceptance and accountability. I was I was diagnosed at birth with a chronic illness by the name of sickle cell anemia. Sickle
Okay.
cell anemia is a blood inherited disease, and you have to have one gene from each parent to
Mm,
be diagnosed with SS. There are many forms of sickle cell disease, and myself, I have SS, meaning I have one gene from both parents.
okay.
Um, and so that is what inspired me to start becoming a coach and empowering other women who also live with a chronic illness. I am 30. I'm married. I have a coaching business, which I just recently, briefly spoke about.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah.
He said, "That's it. That's you. That's you."
In a nutshell.
And then, okay. So with your coaching,
Yeah.
um, you touched briefly on how you started. So I guess I want to ask you, when you first became aware of your diagnosis, how did that make you feel?
So for so long, I feel like I didn't really understand what I was dealing with, and how severe or how severe my diagnosis is or my chronic illness is. So I believe it wasn't until I was 11 years old. And at
Mm,
that time, I had recently lost my father. And
mm,
soon after I had lost my father, I was hospitalized. And I was hospitalized for approximately 2.5 months. And during that hospitalization, I was in the ICU.
mm,
And I think I spent maybe a month in ICU. And at that time, the doctors basically told my family that they needed to start calling family in. I had a brother who lived in Philadelphia at the time, so he flew in from Philadelphia, and I had just other family members around because the doctors didn't think I was going to make it. They basically
mm.
said this was it. So I believe at the age of 11 is when I really started to realize I am different, and sickle cell anemia is way more than just pain, and it's really can affect someone's life to the point that to the point that someone dies. I have
Mhm.
an aunt who actually died from complications of sickle cell anemia. So I
Mm,
think at that age of 11, me being hospitalized, although I had been in and out the hospital as a child, missing
mhm,
school, being teased because of the color of my eyes were jaundice, which is a
mm.
yellow color. But it still didn't click to me until that hospitalization at the age of 11, where I was like, whoa, this is
This
serious.
is
And
serious.
I am different. And I really have to take this diagnosis serious than something just, oh, it's just sickle cell. Oh, you just have sickle cell. And that is when it clicked to me at that age of 11, when they didn't think I was going to make it, and I'm still here, and just knowing in that time and in that moment that things needed to change for me as far as really understanding and taking my health serious, even though I'm young, even though I'm a
Right,
child. And of course, you don't want to have that as a child as a burden, but
right,
knowing that I have to really understand for myself to be able to speak up for myself, to be able to communicate and advocate for myself that
right,
this is what I'm dealing with.
right. What
Yeah.
what pushed you? What kept you going?
What kept me going? I think it was just that losing my father. My grandmother raised my brother and I. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in a two-parent household.
Mm-hmm.
So although I struggle sometimes with those, oh, I want to give up and that why me and questioning why me. But I
Mm-hmm.
think even now, what pushes me is just knowing that my story and my testimony will help the next individual, and knowing that I have sickle cell anemia, but sickle cell anemia does not have me.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to just know that God has a purpose in me for further greater than just this diagnosis, a chronic illness diagnosis. So knowing that there's so much more than just this diagnosis that makes me, there's so much more. And knowing that there's someone else that is looking at me
Mm-hmm.
and being encouraged from what it is that I have been through, from losing my father, being raised by my grandmother, being
Mm-hmm.
in and out the hospital, and just knowing that I can encourage someone else and be that hope and that person for someone else who didn't have or don't have that person. So just knowing that my life is a testimony, that I am a testimony, and that I can help the next individual.
Awesome. Awesome. I know, and you said something that I think a lot of people say, which is why me? Right.
Yes.
Why does
Yes.
this happen to me? So I can only imagine that there must have been a battle between you and God. Like,
Yes.
okay, what's up? Like, I thought you loved me. Why
Yes.
you giving me this disease? How
Yes.
how were you able to come to terms and accept that, what God gave you wasn't necessarily a death sentence for you. It was meant for
Correct.
you
For greater.
take on something bigger. How
Yes.
were you, I guess, how did you come to the point where you could accept that?
So it took me a while. Like I said in the beginning, I am 32. And so for so long, I questioned all the time, like, God, like,
Yeah,
why me? I'm looking at friends as a young child outside running through the sprinkler, and
right.
I'm not being able to do those things because that can trigger me to have a crisis or a flare up and cause me to be in the hospital. So
Mm,
I'm like staring out the window, like my friends out there playing and I can't. So I'm like, why can't I just be a normal child? Why can't I
right.
play outside with my friends? Why? So it took me in 2019 I started to, go to therapy because it was a point in my life in that time frame where I was going to work, and I was going to work so I wouldn't get fired, basically.
Mhm,
But I was just
mhm.
there. Like mentally I was checked out. Physically I was there, but mentally I was just like, and that just started to, it was different for me. Like this, I'm like, this not me. What is going on? Like, what is going on?
Mhm.
So I started my therapy journey then, and that whole why me, even during therapy, even sometimes now when I have a pain crisis and when it gets bad where I'm doing good, I've been drinking my water, taking my vitamins, and still having those pain crises. I'm still like, God, like, why me? Like,
Mhm.
you made this promise to me that I wouldn't, have to deal with this. Why? So honestly, for me, it became to the point where I had to change my perspective, and I
Mm,
had to change the way I was looking at this diagnosis. And although, I have been diagnosed with sickle cell anemia, I had to change that perspective, and I had to just ask God, like, what is it like? What is it that you want me to do with this space? What
right.
do you want me to do with this chronic illness? And once I started to build that relationship with God and truly listen and sit still and be still and understand that, yes, I have this diagnosis, but this diagnosis is for me to use my experience to once go back and share with the world that God is a healing God, that God is amazing. He'll never leave you, He'll never forsake you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that if you just have a conversation with Him and lean on Him and trust in Him, that He'll always be there for you. So I had to really just change my perspective and how I was looking at it. Even when I go to the hospital,
Mhm.
sometimes I have to be dragged out the house to go to the hospital because I just don't want to go.
Right.
But I had to change the way I looked at that as well, because I may be in a hospital to encourage somebody else, or God may be sending me to this hospital for a nurse to speak into me, which has happened
Mm,
before. And in that moment, I just really had to say, I'm sitting here mad and upset, but God, you really have me because you had a message for me here through this nurse. So I really just had to change the way I was looking at everything, change the way I was looking at my diagnosis. And it's not easy because I still have those moments where
Mm-hmm.
I'm in pain and I'm crying, and it's like days and days and days of pain. So it's not just like I'm just walking around like, oh, I got it, it's good,
Right.
everything is all good. No, I still have my moments where I'm like, okay, God, like what's going on now? You
Right.
know,
I thought we
and
was good. Like,
yeah, I thought I was in the clear.
yep.
So, I still have my moments. So I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, everything is good, because no, sometimes, I do have those moments, because chronic illness is unpredictable. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, you can do everything right. You can be drinking your water, staying hydrated. You can be resting. You can have your stress levels in control, because some of those things is what could trigger your, having a flare up. And I can think I'm doing all these things right, but here comes
Right.
a flare up, and you like,
Right.
but I did this, I did that, I did that. So I don't want to sit here and just make it seem like everything is always good, because it's not. It's really unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
But I do change my perspective and how I am viewing each hospital stay, each flare up, and it's like, okay, God, what you got for me this time? What do you want me to learn, and what do you want me to get out of this experience in this time in this hospital stay?
That's interesting. Okay. So now does that lead us into E Inspires?
Yes.
That's what brings us here today. So what you empower women with all different kind of chronic illnesses, not just one?
Correct. So, although it may just be a different name, most chronic illness, we go through a lot of the same things. We experience pain, we experience hospitalizations, we experience fatigue. Some people experience hair loss, weight loss, different things like that. And also, mental health issues come into play as well, because I've
Mhm.
dealt with situational depression. So, although you may have lupus and I may have sickle cell anemia, I can still relate to you. I can still know what that pain. It may not be the same pain, but I can still relate to you being in pain. I can still relate to you not having the best of the day, and just
Mhm.
being in pain and
Mhm.
things like that. So that is where E Inspires come in, and just being able to empower, to being able to educate people on chronic illness, and being able to just elevate and allow people to know,
Mhm.
you're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. So that is where E Inspires come in. And although I have a great support
Mhm.
system, I have a brother who's 4 years older than me, who also have sickle cell anemia. So he
Wow.
understands, and we understands each other. But
Mhm.
sometimes, he may not understand in this situation, and everybody don't have that. They
Mhm.
may be the first person in their family who have been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and they don't understand or don't know where to turn or where to go.
Mhm.
So that is where E Inspires, how E Inspires was birthed, where E Inspires come from, because I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to have
Yes.
doctors or nurses not understand what you're going through. And also working and
Mhm.
keeping a job, and being able to navigate that area as far as working. So making sure that you have FMLA in place, short-term disability and
Mhm.
long-term disability, and being able to educate someone who have a chronic illness and this is new for them,
Mhm.
and they're going through those what's next, and going through that shocking phase, and going through that numbness, and being angry, and just feeling all of those emotions, and being able to just help them and navigate through that area.
That's amazing. That's amazing. E. Okay. What are some? Can you just name some of the chronic illnesses that you see that people are dealing with?
Yes. So, I have the one that I deal with
Mhm.
personally, which is sickle cell anemia. We have lupus that I see, and I know people, and I've worked with people who have lupus. We have endometrius, worked with, a young lady who have endometrius, fibromyalgia,
Mhm.
Crohn's disease, um, And I think those are just a few, just to name multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so those are just a few that some of the chronic illness that I know and I've worked with individuals who have experienced or have those diagnoses.
Okay. Now, are those the same as autoimmune diseases?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
yes.
So, how can someone be a part of your coaching? Like, how can they get your services?
Yes, so I offer one-on-one coaching and I also offer group coaching. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I do have a coaching program, a one-on-one coaching program that is called AIM.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to just aim higher than our diagnosis, aim higher than our chronic illness diagnosis. And that is a 2-hour session.
Okay.
And we will analyze, your diagnosis, analyze what's going on in your life, analyze what things when you were diagnosed and who was there, just analyze just things
Mm-hmm.
surrounding your chronic illness. And then we want to identify some things such as triggers, because I had to learn my triggers to be able to better manage my chronic illness, to
Mm-hmm.
try to avoid a flare up and try to stay out of the hospital. So that would be the I that we go through, and then that M is to manage. So we want to develop some healthy coping skills to better manage our diagnosis and our chronic illness and try to avoid flare ups. And that can be booked through, I have the booking link on my Facebook page as well as my Instagram page, and you can book it. It's a 2-hour session, and once you click on it, it'll take you to the page. You can pick a date and a time,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go from there.
You go from there. Okay, cool. So, at least tell people how they can follow you on your social media.
Yes. So on Facebook, I am Elise Perry. That is ELISE PERRY. And then on Instagram, that is people's underscore choice. And that's PEEPLES_choice on Instagram. And those are like the two main platforms that I am on.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Elise, it was a pleasure having you on our show today. Can you post in our group? Can you join our group, Total Praise Radio?
Yes, yes, yes.
Please join the group and feel free to post, about the different chronic illnesses out there,
Okay.
maybe some treatments or symptoms and things like that. Just
Yes,
kind of educate people on the chronic
yes.
illnesses. That would be dope. She gonna join the group.
Thank you.
You hear it? Now he playing the music. See, now he done said make sure you join the group, and now he done tuned out and went to the studio. I'm in the studio.
Multitasking, multitasking.
That's crazy.
You're a real good Christian, though. You're a real good Christian. I love that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure, a ball. And I just thank you guys so much.
You are so welcome. And make sure y'all continue to listen to Total Praise Radio by going to www.totalentradio.com and hitting the Total Praise Radio button. And let us know what you think. Let us know how you feeling it. I'm Elise. Once again, thank you for being our guest today. I took over our next guest today. This is your host, Kayla, signing out. Peace.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I sure did.